chilly morning on my back doorstep. I did a video about relationships, which I think when it's heard, people are going to feel upset about, possibly very, very upset. And it's about rapey sex in relationships, and why I can say with all the authority that I've been given, that if you're in a relationship in which you are not completely in love with the other person, and that means you check yourself by saying, is the other person's happiness more important than mine, regardless of what comes back, then the sex that you're having is rapey. And so I know that's hard to hear, so I'm going to tell you something about what happened to me in experience, in which I had sex, which was, as far as I could see after the event, I assessed it as virtually rape. I see rape as on a spectrum: outright horror, and a bit rapey. This is what I mean. I had a friend here, and she was great fun, and we were just friends really, and she'd had the typical journey of a woman who was in the family, who was cast as the black sheep, was identified as the scapegoat. Yeah, it's a classic story, and that she became the target for the family to house their own demons. They house all their demons in her, and that works as the family. Works for the family, works for her too, because she knows where she is, and I expect maybe many people in this world who recognise that this scenario I'm laying out and where it leads. Because then what happened was she understood where she was in the family, and she was secure and safe to a certain extent, but that she wasn't loved. She didn't feel loved at all. That she had to work hard herself to get anything from anyone to make her feel that she was loved and valuable and special. So of course her relationships that she stepped into with the boys where she grew up was, they saw who she was, and they took that from her, and so immediately they were raping her, because she wasn't having sex with them because she loved them. She was having sex with them because she wanted to feel wanted and to feel loved and special in some way, and that she was able to extract that a small amount of joy from the horror that was being inflicted on her, and the abuse. She knew her body was being abused by these boys, but she put up with it because she got something from it. Why were those boys behaving like that? Why did they think they had the right to treat my friend as a young girl like that? Yeah. Why? It's because we feel entitled. Men just feel entitled to take. If they find a woman who is vulnerable, the instinct of a male is to protect that vulnerability. Because of the corrupt way and the conditioning that we've been taught, that protection immediately turns into an unbalanced relationship, that the protector feels more powerful than the protected, and that's a feeling of that feels good. And what can happen in those situations is it makes your cock hard, and therefore you associate these feelings of power with these feelings of drive in your body, represented by your erection, and you then use it because you think that's what it's for. So you think you're entitled to do this act because when you did it, you felt powerful. You got validation when you left her. You felt powerful. You walked away. Yeah. So that's how these things grow. And then I step into the story as I was. And she came to see me one time, and we had a real laugh, and we played around, and we had sex, and it was great fun. And it really, and for both of us, it was there was some, for me, in my experience, there was real equality there. It was a really good, fun experience, and we didn't repeat it, but we were still friends. She came to see me a few months afterwards, and I had that experience that I just described to you, that she was vulnerable and I was able to protect her in that moment, and my cock went hard and I felt I had the right to have sex with her, and so I did, and we did, and there was no problem at the time. There seemed to be no problem at the time, and certainly she expressed no problem at the time, but because she was absolutely used to this kind of sex. But when she'd gone, I realised that I'd raped her. I'd abused my power, take the position of a vulnerable woman, and had used it for my own pleasure and for my own validation. And at the moment that I was carrying out the deed, I felt validated. The moment she'd gone, I no longer felt validated. I felt a horror at the deed that I had done. And I'm pretty confident, although it's hard to say, that the sex I had after that with, I think, one other person I went out with after this time was good. It had no element of rapiness in it. Because I'd really brought down myself to understanding that don't put yourself in this position again. If you feel this rising of power within myself and an erection occurs, don't naturally assume that means you have the right to have sex with that woman. So that's by way of confession. That I don't accuse others of deeds that I am not guilty of. I am guilty of them. I had been guilty of them. But I will never be guilty of them again, ever. And this is what's so lovely, because I've learned. Yeah. Have I learned now? Again, more than 220, this one. And this is where you need to come to. I'm looking at, one of the things that's brought me along on this whole journey is the idea of rape as a weapon of war. Why is rape always a weapon of war? Why? Not the obvious brutality of the moment. The underlying structure of the system of war into which we are embedded. Why is it based on rape? Because in India, there's been several cases where gang rapes occur of women in toilets. So women go through metamorphoses through their lives. They are young girls, they achieve maturity, and their bodies change, and they ovulate. And that means they bleed from their bodies every month. And that needs to be taken care of and sorted out. The way we do it at the moment is so cruel. So cruel. So women, just that one motion of not caring that they have to go through this every month marks us out as bastards. And so only bastards could gang rape a woman in a toilet. And it's because, take the scenarios that I just outlined to you, that I was talking about that you'll probably recognise, and that I try to identify myself to the nth degree, that someone who's trained and conditioned, and I'm afraid through religious training, they're particularly embedded, the male status is embedded really deeply into most religions, that enables men to, it says, look, men have the power. Yeah, men are powerful and wonderful. Women are dirty. In some way, religions enable men to label women as dirty. So if I think about the situation now in India, so it's very poor places. They have very little in terms of facilities to keep themselves comfortable, clean and tidy. So that I suspect these toilets where the women are having to go through and clean themselves up because they're not given they're not allowed to just not work and just spend their time in bed getting looked after by men. That would be, goodness me, that's far too much hard work, isn't it? Yeah, to actually look after your women and care for them. Yeah, no, fucking just make them go and sort themselves out in the toilet with a piece of bog roll and some newspaper. Yeah, with a shit-stained toilet and some graffiti written on the wall that says "You're a cunt." Yeah, that's the kind of environment that we're creating for women to maintain their own bodies. So of course they see this bleeding as a dirty thing because they've oh no, I don't want to. Yeah, it's somehow an untouchable thing that we're not supposed to talk about. Women aren't supposed to talk about. You just get on with it, women, and sort it out. And so the driver that allows gang rape of women in toilets is not going to be going on a self-policed planet of excellence, as you might have guessed. So that the message that I said to you about your relationships and about the sex you're having is directly affecting what's happening in other countries where the men are given a freer rein to exhibit their worst behaviours. You heal the world from going within. Jihad means to fight the demons within. You can get assistance from through the religion, the culture of Islam, through the Sharia law that the Prophet, peace be on him, has laid out for us, to guide people towards jihad, to cleanse the demons and exorcise the demons from them. And this demon is there because you are having rapey sex. The demon exists. There's a loop, a vicious circle of validation, rapey sex, relationship, identity, ego, validation, rapey sex. It just goes on and on and on. If you're having it, you're affecting what goes on in the world because your mind is distorted during these activities. If your mind is distorted, the minds of the people around you are distorted. If the minds of the people around you are distorted, the mind of the planet is distorted. If the mind of the planet is distorted, all the males who access consciousness access distorted and corrupted consciousness. So the first step to stopping the genocide is to look at your relationship and make a decision. Yeah. Be friends. Be friends. Are you friends? Then you can have sex. If you're not friends, you can't. That's it. That's it. Okay? So if you thought I was poking at you and being particularly personal to you, please know that I was being also personal to myself, and that the drivers behind it is that rape is over. Finishes. And we place women on the pedestal where they belong, and we care for them during their time of the bleed, and they will care for us the rest of the time. The sex that we have will be fantastic. They'll know to trust us, men. We're not a threat to them in any way. Yeah, if we get an erection, we know that it's just a biological response, potentially triggered by an ego-driven system, and therefore you don't automatically assume that you can use it. Just because you have a weapon, sometimes the best place to leave it is in its scabbard. That feels like the end, doesn't it? Nice one. I'm going to do another one in a bit. That was it. This is like a bonus. I hope you enjoyed it. Love is everything. Sex without love is rape. Rape corrupts your mind. Your mind corrupted corrupts the world. The whole world. Love rules. Do that well. This is a new story.